One of the options the farmer has is go ahead and have your 25 horsepower pump sitting there, electric, and then bring in a PTO pump on a tractor. And bring yourself in a couple of 100 horsepower tractor, which is only going to put out about 75 horsepower out the PTO, and there's your supplemental drive. And then that doesn't cost you that demand charge, and it might be a real cheap way to do your pumpage on a part-time continuum like frost protection. Or if you had to do supplemental irrigating during the rest of the year, you could use a PTO pump to do that as well. There are some farms in the area that have diesel engines running water. Even though electricity is cheaper, because of that big demand charge, they put a diesel engine in there and drive it with a diesel engine during that time. So they're using fossil fuels to drive internal combustion engine. That's another option. Bring in and put an internal combustion engine to drive the pump instead of electric motor. And so that gives you some of the options that you have in sizing up and setting up for frost protection, because it is a very expensive endeavor. And basically, what are you getting? An insurance policy. You're buying insurance on your crop, because all that is doing is it's saying, hey, we're going to keep enough of it alive so we can have a crop to harvest come fall. And you know, maybe nature's going to do some thinning for you in the process. On a cold night, you might lose part of the crop, but maybe not all of it. You know what the guys really cry about is when they lose the end blossoms. They call them the king buds, or the king blossoms. That's the major bud on every end of every one of these. I'm not a horticulturist, so I don't have the right terminology, but there's the major buds. The first ones to come out set the biggest fruit. And they want to keep as much of those alive as they can, because they want that perfect apple. You know, they don't want the little scrawny guys. They want the ones that count up and that are nice, big-sized fruit, because they sell for a little more money. And so if they can keep those king blooms going, then they can maximize their potential profit come picking time. And those are the ones that bloom first. They're the earliest, so they're the most likely to get frosted. And so we're really struggle to maintain the king blooms that we possibly can. Interestingly, here in this valley, they can just about don't worry about frost protection. It's a rare occurrence we have a freeze out in the Walla Walla Valley. You might lose 25, even 50% of your blossom, but even if you lose 50% of your blossom, you can still get a heck of a crop on these apple trees. They still set plenty of blooms. And you just get bigger fruit. You don't have to go through and do all that thinning. Mother Nature's helped thin, you know, in a lot of cases. But there are areas, you get up in the upper Yakima Valley, where they can have many, many nights a year that they need to run frost protection. How about up in the Okanagan, Kari? Do they have a problem? Every year, pretty much, they have to fight the frost. You know, further north, it gets more and more critical. You know, there's chance for colder air further north as we get northern latitude. And we do have a big orchard district up right on the Canadian border in the state. They're a little bit later, things bud a little bit later and so on, but the air also stays cooler longer into the season. So they have a little more fear of freeze out. Also, they're higher elevation. That causes you a little problem too. Out here we're getting down into pretty low elevations on a lot of this orchard ground along the Columbia River, the lower Columbia down here.